and welcome back to my channel. If this is the first time you're seeing me, my name is Karsten and this is my channel. I just got back from a work trip, and typically when I come back from work trips, the first thing I think about is when am I gonna go on a real vacation. I think people have this misconception that work trips, they can be fun and they do have a lot of perks, but at the same time it's still work. So when I come back, I am thinking about, okay, when am I actually gonna be able to have some freedom? Last year, I was able to go on a few girl trips, and I even went out of the country for the first time to Aruba. So my travel bug has really been itching, and I know I still need to sit down and map out and plan exactly where it is I would like to go in 2024. Besides the fact that I do want to actually go on more trips, I've also been thinking myself as a content creator and just as other content creators that I know and have met, how does content, social media, aesthetics, all of it, how does it affect our travel experience, number one, but also how we behave ourselves or how we kind of approach planning and going on vacations. And I'm also gonna get a little bit into brand trips because I think that social media has a lot of good things about it for vacations. You can get inspiration for locations, or you can get outfit ideas. And there's a lot of creators nowadays who can put together full itineraries and structures for you to use to make it a bit easier when you are trying to plan your trips. I think the downside of that too is that sometimes we get into this mode of making sure all of our moments, whether we capture it in pictures or videos, making sure that they're all Instagrammable and Insta-worthy. And in my opinion, I think it could take away from the trip itself when you are focusing so much on just aesthetics. When I think about vacations that get a lot of play on social media and a lot of attention, I think of luxury. I think about exclusivity. I think about going to this sexy remote island with 5-star services. And that's kind of the dream that I think maybe not everyone, but a lot of people would like to have or experience at least once in their lives. When we talk about luxury, usually exclusivity does come with that. So it's something that we look at and we admire, but it's not really easily attainable. I wanted to go back and kind of think about the earlier days of partying, and it's not the earliest, but in the 80s. So all white parties have been a staple, I know, in the Black community, but beginning in 1988, Dinner in LeBlanc was an event where attendees were requested to wear all white, and they were asked to meet at a secret location. At the last minute, the secret location is revealed to thousands of friends who have all been patiently waiting to learn where Dinner in Blanc will take place. Thousands of people dressed in all white and conducting themselves with the greatest decorum, elegance, and etiquette all meet for a mass picnic in a public square. White symbolizes, in some aspects, purity, which we already know is a little bit problematic nowadays. And white isn't easy to wear. White can be damaged easily, and it implies exclusivity because everybody who is attending in all white needs an invite. So it's not something that anybody and everybody can just show up to. You actually need to be invited. Nowadays, they have more of these white parties, kind of exclusive secret invites across the country. So as of now, they have it in 80 cities and 30 countries. Now, if you fast forward to, I guess, maybe more modern times, white parties within the Black community have been a staple for a long time. Will Phelps is noted as being one of the pioneers of white parties, at least in the Black community, and he is from Detroit, and he's thrown all white parties for a long time, since 1998, and the first one he had was for his 34th birthday. Similar to Dinner in Blanc, the draw in the appeal is the spectacle. It's seeing who's in attendance, seeing what they're wearing, and one of the things that is noted within these all-white parties is that it democratizes things. It eliminates some of that elitism, and it makes it more accessible for other groups and other communities to participate in. The draw is the celebration of Black excellence, excess, and also spectacle. People want to look good and feel good, and it doesn't have to be exclusive to just wealthy people. Part of the white party's appeal is that it democratizes that flyness. Looking good in white is accessible to anyone across age and class. I think it's the energy of that excess that is really attractive sometimes, because maybe at an exclusive party or something to where you are invited to individually, it's nice to get that recognition and I guess be singled out to just come together and have a good time with other people who know and love you and who just want to have fun. That feeling you get at a special event or something where you have to dress up or you have to put in a little effort before you show up. That's the type of energy that I know I wish I could carry every day. But I think the closest thing that we can get to besides exclusive parties and events is our vacations. I don't know of anyone personally that doesn't go on vacation to have a good time. I feel like vacations are a pause from the everyday and maybe the monotonous parts of life. So if you have a 9 to 5 and you're stressed out and you just feel like you need a break, whether or not you actually feel rejuvenated when you come back from that vacation is another discussion. But at the very least, you do have some access and a little bit of control of how you can spend your time when you go on vacation. When I went on my trip to Aruba last year, I was so excited because it was my first time going out of the country with my sister, but also because this was maybe my first real vacation. Like taking a week to spend time on an island, on a resort that's all inclusive. That's the type of thing that I know I had wanted for a long time, and it didn't really feel attainable to me. Because there's so much access and information available, actually coming together and thinking of ideas, thinking of activities, where we want to stay, what we want to do, what we want to eat, it wasn't as difficult as it could have been. Granted, we did plan it maybe within a month or two, but when we were out there, we met and spoke to people who had planned these trips years in advance. So even for the newer type of traveler like myself, maybe who's trying to get their feet wet and trying to explore a bit of the world, there's excitement. And I think for seasoned travelers, there's still excitement because it's a getaway. It's literally a vacation on an island. The other thing I was reminded of on that trip is that we don't necessarily all come from the same backgrounds, the same financial statuses. It might be easier for one person to plan a full expense paid trip to Aruba versus, somebody else who maybe struggles a bit more. And so maybe it's just a reminder for myself, but I think we have to be mindful of the way we approach vacations and maybe the way that we discuss vacations with other people. Getting back to social media, it can in some ways be an escape, maybe for someone who doesn't have as much time or energy or free time to just go on a vacation. You're looking at other people living their lives, putting up their highlight reels on their Instagram pages or maybe even TikTok, Pinterest. They're showing you the high life. They're showing you how to have fun. And we sometimes feel that pressure because you're almost trying to live up to that same standard, even though you really don't have to. When I think about maybe the earlier days of social media, I think about Facebook because that's the first social media app that I was able to have in middle school. And I remember posting pictures of every single thing I did. Every single status was where I was walking, where I was in school, what I was doing, anything that was kind of pointless, but there wasn't pressure to have such a curated image back then. You were just taking pictures of any and everything that you thought was cool, and sometimes I wish we could get back to that. So the benefits of social media, there's more access to information again, and there's plenty of how-to guides. So if you're trying to plan a vacation, it's not like there isn't any information or resources available to you. If you are like myself and you are newer to travel, there's inspirations for outfits on Pinterest, and you get to capture and hold those memories. There's something fun about showing those pictures that you took on vacation. Not everybody is the same way, but I know I like to capture memories. I like to go for those shots, and I just like to enjoy the time I have. I had put a question up on my Threads page, just have you fallen victim to social media aesthetics on vacations? And I feel the question is too broad because I may have been coming more from like a negative standpoint as far as what issues have you had? Have you had a hard time? And I was met with a lot of feedback that was positive as far as what we just talked about. So having access to information, inspiration, how-to guides, cute pictures, things like that. With anything, there is a downside, and especially social media, there is so much that can happen and that can affect not only the way we view ourselves, the people around us, but specifically on vacation, how it can affect the way we go about doing that. Brand trips have been around, I would say, for the last decade. I know I remember watching videos from 2014 and a little beyond that of creators that I liked that were going on these all expense paid trips to promote hair care products and makeup. And it was fun to watch those videos because, again, it's kind of an escape and you're getting transported to another location. But brand trips in themselves have gotten so huge that personally I feel that they've influenced the way we carry ourselves on vacation. So way back in the day when I was starting my natural hair journey and I was trying to learn how to take care of my curly hair, there were a lot of creators that I liked. You Love Megs was one specifically that I used to watch all her videos all the time. And there was a point where I think for curls, they had a brand trip. It was Curls in the Bahamas from 2017. I was amazed by the way that they were all able to just come together and have such a fun time. And when I was watching that video back then, I wasn't really thinking about the costs associated. I was just thinking, oh, they're so lucky to go on this brand trip, and then they're so lucky that they're paying for all this stuff. I was just admiring the spectacle of it all, which I think is a part of a lot of social media presence when it comes to vacations and trips. And it was obvious when I was watching the video back then that they are there to try products, to promote products. So similar to a work trip, they're still working, but at the very least, the benefits and the perks are pretty nice. I don't know anyone that wouldn't want to go on an all expense paid trip to the Bahamas, even if it meant promoting products. That's kind of just the name of the game, especially with certain influencers, content creators. It just is what it is. More recently, Tarte had a brand trip to Dubai, which I think amounted to $500,000 total, which for some brands, it's easy to just put out that much money because it's a part of your marketing campaign. It's a part of a marketing budget. So that's what they've decided is necessary to get their product in front of the right eyes and ears, to gather all of these influencers and creators with social media clout and have them go on these fun trips, sometimes with an obligation to post and sometimes without an obligation to post. Either way, they're on a free trip, so something has to give. For those unfamiliar with influencer trips, brands typically fly 5 to 10 celebrities or influencers, sometimes with a plus one or not, to an exotic location for a weekend full of activities. Some brands require the influencers to make content, which could include having props, posing, having photo shoots for the launch itself. Companies like Tarte, however, give the content creator liberty in what products and content they post. So the goal is just to optimize the time that they have to create as much content as possible, whether or not it's an obligation, they're still going to create some content. So think about get ready with me's, videos when you're watching someone do their makeup on a trip. Think about someone showing you a behind the scenes or a come with me, like a day-to-day process. That's still content that people are making about this trip that they're on. And this may not apply to everyone, but I can see how it affects the way we present our own lives. Even creators who aren't getting paid to go on these trips or going on free trips for brands are still creating their lives and videos in a way that leans towards these aesthetics. That trip I was talking about earlier, I was definitely living in the moment and just taking it in for what it was, because this was really the first kind of experience I had like that at an all-inclusive resort. But there was a moment where I felt like I was getting a little more swept away by maybe the aesthetics of everything as opposed to enjoying the trip. We were on a boat and it's just a sunset cruise type of situation. And mind you, the boat is going up and down, so we're not necessarily stable. And me and my sister were doing what we could to get the perfect shot of us standing on this boat with the ocean and the sun behind us. And eventually we did get the shot, but there was a lot of stress that we had. You know, we start sometimes bickering about really small stuff, and we're trying to think about, oh, get it from this angle. Oh, I don't like it when I look like this. You need to move over here. Oh, you should try getting it like this. And we're basically arguing over a pose for a picture on a boat as opposed to just enjoying the time on the boat. That's a small example, but I think we all have moments like that when we go on trips and vacations where maybe we get a little bit carried away. You start arguing and getting into it about these pictures and these angles, and you're taking away from the moment. We have to remember that people on brand trips essentially are getting paid to create content with these vacations. We don't necessarily need to put the same amount of pressure on ourselves to execute or put out content at that rate or at that level, because unless you are a travel content creator and you are getting paid to create this content, to go to these different hotels and locations, that is great. And if that is your lane, stay in it because it's working for you. But for the rest of us who aren't in that same category, we don't have to do the same thing. We can just enjoy vacation. And even if you do get a cute picture, some cute videos, you don't have to feel pressure to just constantly be pumping out content, unless it's what you want to do. That's up to you. Now, how do these creators and influencers get these trips? Unfortunately, I can't tell you that. I don't have the answers, but I think the basics of what most of us know, it has something to do with their audience, how many followers they have, maybe past experiences with brands that they've worked with. Either way, there are people getting these free trips. But for regular people like you and me, maybe if you're watching this video, we don't always get paid to go on trips. And I'm talking about not work trips to Arizona. I'm talking about luxury vacations. A few other things that kind of, I think, negatively affect the vacation experience that I had written down in my notes. So overconsumption, highlighting things that maybe we don't need, buying new outfits that we don't need for a new trip. I might buy a new piece, maybe a new swimsuit, and I'm not saying I'm immune to it or anything, but we sometimes buy these outfits that we see and we don't even know if we're actually going to wear them. We just buy them because we're going on vacation. Overdoing the itinerary, I think, is another thing. I like a good plan, and I have a friend specifically who is great at putting itineraries together. She knows how to look up these flights, these hotels, these deals, and we come with a plan for our vacation. So we don't have to worry about what we're going to do because we already know what we're going to do. With that, there's a lot of variables when it comes to building an itinerary, specifically for group trips. We don't all have the same budget. We're not all able to afford the same location. And I think about group trips, and group trips, you're really trying to manage everybody's expectations, and it can be a test of your friendship. Usually if I'm going on a trip with friends, we look at Airbnbs and we all have different budgets, right? So it's the difference between maybe staying at a modestly sized home that's nice and comfortable versus a huge mansion luxury Airbnb for a group. I remember watching Sweet Life, Issa Rae's show on HBO Max. Unfortunately, it got canceled. I wish they had another season. But besides seeing an all-black cast, the thing that stuck out to me was the group trips they took. And we also have to remember this is HBO, so there was probably something in the budget. Someone probably paid for these trips. But the way that they were able to stay at these nice places, I had inspiration for trips I wanted to take. They had a trip to Cancun, Mexico, and I was like, I want to be there. I want to be in an Airbnb just like that. And it's a part of, again, the spectacle of the vacation. It's not enough just to pick a location. You also need to make sure that where you're staying lives up to the part. You have to make sure that it lives up to the experience you're trying to have. And even the house that you're in, it amounts to how is this trip gonna go? It's the small details like that that I think we forget about, but if you're trying to plan like a real luxury vacation, that is something to consider. The last thing I wanted to touch on was comparison. It's easy to start comparing yourself to these influencers and social media creators that you see who are on these trips, who maybe can't afford to go on more luxury vacations, or who at least have access to someone, some group that will give them a plug to go on this trip. Your trip isn't any less valuable just because it doesn't match up to your favorite content creator. It's not less valuable just because you weren't able to stay in a luxury Airbnb and maybe you just stayed on a street that was walking distance from where you needed to go. Everybody has different expectations and also different levels of comfortability when they are on vacations. And so what works for one person doesn't always work for everybody else. Even within a group, what works for one person might not work for somebody else. I think when we're planning our vacations, I know a lot of people, especially at the beginning of the year, are probably looking at their calendars and mostly for summer vacations, trying to see, okay, where do I want to go? When do I want to go? How is this going to work? Give yourself time to really be okay with seeing what works for you realistically. You don't have to feel this pressure to go all out on luxury. I have things that I will spend more money on just because I'm comfortable. So for me, a hotel, I will spend money on a good hotel. That's just how I am. It's a little bit bougie, but it is what it is. But if that's not you and you want to stay at a budget motel, you want to stay somewhere that's relatively affordable, that's okay. As long as you have time for those experiences. Some people like to splurge and spend money on the actual activities that they do. So as opposed to spending a lot of money on food or the hotel, they want to make sure they're spending as much money as they reasonably can to go on these experiences and excursions that'll have memories that stay with them forever. We all vacation differently, and maybe that's what it is. This whole video is just discussing that we vacation differently. We all go on trips differently, and it's okay if you don't have a luxury vacation. You can have one if you want to, maybe like once in your life, I don't know, try it, but it's okay to just vacation the way that you want to. Things we see on social media can influence us and slowly trickle down into our everyday lives. The way you vacation is up to you. Your vacation is your vacation, and it's really up to you to make the most of it. But what's more important than that is being present to really create those memories and those moments that you want for yourself. So that way, when you come back from your vacation, you're actually refreshed and you're not frustrated about these pictures that you didn't get or this video that you didn't have. You're really just living in the moment and having a good time, because that's what vacations are for. And if anything, maybe this video is a reminder to plan your vacations, to take time to sit down and think about where do you want to go this year. I know I have to do the same thing. Vacations should be as stress-free as they can, and they're really a nice opportunity to shake off our responsibilities for a little bit. So vacation responsibly, and let me know, how do you think social media impacts your vacation experience? Does it affect it at all? What are some of the positives that you have? Let me know what you think about this video. I really wanted to kind of piggyback off of the social media aesthetics and the discussion that we had in the Black Beauty Effect video. So hopefully this was a nice cap to that whole discussion. But let me know if there's anything else you want to talk about as relates to social media. I'm excited to just keep on creating these videos and having these discussions with you all to test what I can do, to test the things that interest me. So thank you again for being here. If you like this, feel free to subscribe, share it with a friend, get the conversation going, and you can find me at Carson Ashley Bush on Instagram. I also have a podcast, the Words With Me podcast, if you want some more motivational content. But thank you again for being here, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.